Yo,
Hello,
what's up? What's up? Hey guys, hey guys. Good evening,
hello,
good evening.
hello.
Good afternoon to you, David. Hey, what's up, Sarah Toby?
How's
Busy,
it
busy
going?
man right there. Hey guys, good evening to everyone again. Welcome to another episode of YGGMA together with the YGG community. And this time around, we have BlockLords. But first of all, Sarah Toby, how are you doing, man?
I'm very well, sir. Just coming straight from another Blockchain Gaming Alliance AMA. So great to just going straight through. Just going to power through. So great to be here. Great to have you, of course, David. Yeah,
Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here talking to the legendary community of YGG and super excited to talk about our games and the many other games in the space, right? It's a good time to be making crypto games.
I agree, 100%. But yeah, David, since it's your first time here talking about BlockLords, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure thing. So I'm David Johansson. I'm the CEO and founder of MetaKing Studio, who's the development studio behind BlockLords. BlockLords is really a real-time strategy, grand strategy games. Actually, we're combining both genre. That's designed entirely around really play-to-own incentives, which is kind of our take on the play-to-earn ecosystem. But really, what we want to do is create a medieval ecosystem where users can be anything from a humble farmer living out their lives to a powerful king declaring war against other nations, right, in the realm. A bit of info about myself. Been making games for the last 10 years. Started off in Facebook gaming, kind of worked my way up to creative director on a number of free-to-play game studios. Released a number of mobile games, RPG games, strategy games specifically. Been always a big strategy buff, and even worked my way towards Paradox, where I worked on the Crusader Kings series as a content designer and been in the blockchain space since 2017. I'm also the co-founder of Seascape Network, which is a infrastructure solution for game developers to integrate NFT and tokenomics into their games. That's a short.
fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, David. Well, obviously, you've kind of covered some of the kind of elevator pitch for BlockLords there in terms of like what we can expect. It really kind of begs some interesting questions. Like how many people are going to be happy to be the serfs of the metaverse? you
Well,
know,
you
um, are we gonna have? I'm sure that they will be there, but it's because some people like farming, right? They love playing farm games. That there's a bunch of farming games that I know have been like really really popular. So I suppose can those kind of menial tasks be something that's like enjoyable and obviously rewarding? Let's just hope that the lords of the realm don't abuse their workers too much.
well, that is a lot of the dynamic of the game is that you, even as a farmer, you do have full control over your farm. You have control over the resources you generate. You can manage it the way you want. And of course, if you're not happy with your lord or your lady, there's a lot of ways to challenge them. You can even move away, or you can work against them on the inside. So we're
Oh
definitely
wow, yeah,
choose what they want to do. But at the end of
yeah.
the day, farming is a peaceful life, and some people like that. And you don't have to be a warrior unless you want to.
That's true. That's true. That's going to be a really interesting dynamic. I think, here at YGG, obviously we've kind of partnered with some really interesting games that kind of allow for this kind of political intrigue, and I think it's going to be something from a kind of from a social, experience. It's going to be a really interesting thing to observe happen. Um, Obviously, being a huge RTS fan myself, what would be the kind of RTS games that you could kind of compare BlockLords to the most?
So I'd say while being an RTS, BlockLords has a lot of influence from grand strategy games and also turn-based strategy games. So I would say our biggest inspirations in terms of game design and also in terms of setting would be games like Total War, Medieval Total War, Crusader Kings 3, which was an amazing game when it comes to setting your character and building out the narrative. And also for the battle side, as I mentioned, Total War, but also Age of Empires. So if I had to choose three references, I would go with Crusader Kings 3 for the role-playing element, for the economics, for the grand strategy empire building gameplay, Total War for the action-packed battles, which we will definitely have a lot of, and then Age of Empires for the farming and for the resource management and just general customization of your bases.
Nice. I've always been a big fan of Age of Empires. I'm not sure about you, Sedano.
For sure. I mean, I haven't, been as exposed to Age of Empires, unlike how I did with Red Alert, Command and Conquer, and
Yeah.
all of the modern ones. But I always, and of course, have a knack, for a medieval game like this. Like, imagine like Skyrim. Dude, that's the craziest as it can get. But now it's gonna be RTS version. And talking about it, the stakes are getting higher because before we have the fans, like we have the fans of the game studios, of the developers, or of the franchise, but now we're talking about NFT and blockchain games. And everything just gets everything just gets leveled up, to a sense. But yeah, I mean, more about you guys. I'd want to know, and of course the community would also want to know, um who's the team behind this? Like, how is a team made up? And yeah, I mean, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so the MetaKing Studio team is a fairly new team, but it's a team comprised of industry veterans. So with me as the CEO and our CTO, Mehmet Ahmetson, who's been working on blockchain tech for the last 5 years, basically, and our COO, Nikki Lee, we are all also co-founders of Seascape Network. So we have a lot of experience on the blockchain management side, on the smart contract audit side, and we know how to build scalable solutions for play to earn games. That's kind of the core leadership. For the actual game development team, our lead producer, Roland Beerson, has spent 15 years at EA. Our game economy
Nice.
designer, Timo, has been, I think, 5 years at Ubisoft. We have a lot of 3D artists from Massive Entertainments, from Paradox. We've built a really robust team of 3D artists, as you can see in the art of the game. I hope we really take the art of the game seriously. And yeah, I'd say, the size of the studio that's working only on BlockLords is about 70 people right now and growing to over 100 in the next few months. And the team behind Seascape, which is doing all of the infrastructure for the blockchain side, is 40 people strong. So all in all, we have almost 150 people working on this game exclusively.
Well, that's insane. I mean, that's crazy. But like just backtracking a bit. So, what was what was the thought process amongst you guys, or the first few people who came together and said, this is the concept, or this is the type of game that we want?
Yeah. So believe it or not, the first idea for BlockLords came to me in 2017. That's when I discovered Bitcoin myself as a free to play game designer. I saw a lot of issues with the free to play economy, the way that they were built. As a game designer, we were creating these really cool, immersive worlds where users would spend a lot of time. But then, in free to play game design, you're intentionally frustrating the user until they get frustrated enough that maybe 2 or 3% of them spend money on the game. And just so working on free to play games, to me, the economics just didn't make sense. And when I discovered Bitcoin, I went down the rabbit hole, which I probably everyone on this stream has gone down this rabbit hole, whether it was a few years ago or a few months ago, it doesn't matter. We all kind of had this moment, right, where, okay, you can actually own digital assets in a verifiable way, and you can build smart contracts in a way so that your assets get something immediately or are able to earn returns immediately. So when that clicked, back in 2017, just right away, I knew, hey, gaming and blockchain is a match made in heaven, and it is the future. So that's when I had the first idea for BlockLords, right? And it's hard to say where ideas come from, but I think it was just the idea, like, okay, strategy games. Everyone wants a cool RTS medieval strategy game, right? And the name BlockLords, I think, just came to me as a perfect package. So the original idea was pretty simple. It was NFT heroes. We fight for land. You fight for resources, you craft cool items that will customize your NFTs. And if you become a lord, you control a city, people who trade in your cities or who create resources in your cities will generate tax income to you. And with smart contracts, we could make that happen. So yeah, that was late 2017. Yeah, actually right as the NFT was invented. That's kind of when it came to me. And then 2018, we started developing prototypes. There were only 5 people on the team back then. And we realized, by then it's full bear market mode, right? Nobody wants to invest in crypto gaming, but we kind of pulled through it. We lived through the bear market, and the way we survived is we received some grants from different blockchains like Neo and Tron and Loom and Matic. Some of these chains aren't even around anymore, but they gave us some small grants, and we were able to fund the early stage development, and we were able to kind of get some excitement going for our game. So we did that for about 2 years, and then we realized that there were a lot of scalability issues in the blockchain space that needed to be solved before we could really build a game like this. Back in 2020, 2019, it wasn't really possible to make a game of this caliber that would scale to as many users as you need for an online strategy of this quality. So that's why we started working on infrastructure more, and we built the Seascape network, and we started working on smaller but more scalable games. And about a year ago, when we saw how much excitement there was for good crypto games, for good play-to-own games, we started MetaKing Studio, and it's been a nonstop ride since then, basically.
That's really awesome. I mean, I have to say, from looking at the site there, and I've been lucky enough to have some lengthy conversations with you, David, about this stuff. But for those in the audience, I'd love to kind of have you tell them a little bit about the kind of the family tree there, and kind of how some of that component will work, and how that's something quite new and interesting that we can see in BlockLords that I don't think has been seen in the blockchain gaming space before.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, as I mentioned earlier, the key point of the game is that every hero is an NFT, and most players will start off as a farmer, but as you work your way up the feudal ladder, so to say, and as you go from farmer to merchant to warrior to lord to king, one thing that's always going to be very important is how you manage your family and how you manage your house. So as a hero, you always have the option to get married and to have children, right? And this is a fun part of the gameplay, because you can definitely pick a spouse that's going to have similar features to yours, to create a child who's going to have maybe more potential initially than you. But where we're, I'd say, innovating or maybe adding a fun twist to it a bit is that we are introducing the concept of NFT permadeath. So every hero in the game, every hero in the game is going to die, and you have to get married and you have to get children and an heir to pass on your legacy, right? And your legacy is everything from your farm to your items to your armies. And it's very important that you get married and have a child in the game. And we think the players are going to have a lot of fun with this as well, as they build their legacy throughout the BlockLords ecosystem.
It's pretty cool. I mean, you mentioned NFT permadeath. So basically, does the NFT get burned? Is that what you're saying?
No, it actually doesn't get burned. It changes the status of the NFT from an alive character to a dead character. Now, dead characters are dead, so you can't play with them. That said, we are going to have certain buildings, for example, the Hall of the Dead, where you'll be able to build statues of your dead heroes.
Okay, nice.
Legacy buffs. And
this strikes me as a massive opportunity to do like the kind of Red Dead Redemption undead version, like you just basically can make a new version of the game that's like much more mystical with like magic and undead heroes, and then you have to use undead heroes in the game, right? That would be pretty awesome.
You're reading my mind, sir, Toby. That is definitely a planned version of the game later on, where the dead heroes shall rise once again, but we don't want to promise anything yet. This is later in the world.
Yeah, I mean, just a follow up. So now, I mean, since we're talking about the gameplay, I definitely would love to learn more about the mechanics. And so, what is BlockLords exactly? Is it an RTS, or is it I mean, we're going as crazy with the visuals as this is almost what's this, a third person?
No, I would call it the first online grand strategy game. And the idea here, and this has never been done even in the regular gaming space.
Yeah.
And we think the reason why it hasn't been done is because the incentivized economics of play-to-earn games did not exist. And we think that was the missing piece, because at the heart of our game is really asymmetrical incentives. And I'll go a bit more into details of that. We've divided the game into really 4 core classes, and those classes, we call them the pillars of gameplay, and those are really the main ways to play the game. So those 4 pillars are farming, warriors, lords, and kings. And those 4 different pillars are really 4 distinct ways to play the game and to contribute to the ecosystem different ways, and to also earn from the ecosystem different ways. Now, as an example, you start your journey. The game will be free to play. It will not be paywalled behind NFTs. So anyone can get started and can get a hero NFT minted for them as they play the game. Now, as a new player, your stats are pretty basic, and you're going to have to get started and get immersed in the world. And the best way to do that, and to earn enough resources to increase your powers is going to be to open up your farm. Now, it's going to be up to the player where they want to go open up a farm. There's going to be a very big map with thousands of regions that they can choose from. Important to note is that every region is controlled by a lord or a lady. As the farmer joins the region, sorry, go ahead. You have a question?
Oh no, go ahead.
Okay. So as you're starting your farm, you'll be able to, do some buildings, earn resources, recruit farmers. Those farmers will actually be other people's NFTs that you'll be able to recruit to help manage your farms as well, to improve the resource production. Important to note here is that all the resources you create as a farmer, a part of them will go to the lords, and the lords are actually earning taxes from their farmers. Now, as you're farming more and more, you're increasing your resource production, you're going to have more resources, and then you kind of have two choices. You can choose to monetize your resources by taking your resources and turning them into meat. Meat is the secondary token of our ecosystem. It works in similar ways to SLP in that it is the main resource for the dynasty system, where you get married and you have children, right? Meat is beer. When you get married, you drink a lot of beer. When you have kids, you drink a lot of beer, right? So that's where we're making the connection. If you don't want to monetize, if you want to take your resources, you can invest them in your armies instead. So as a farmer, you can choose to level up to become a warrior type player. And once you're a warrior type player, you go more on an exploration level. The game is less about managing your own farm. It's more about roaming around the map and finding battles, right? And there are two core types of battles when you're a warrior type character. You can raid other players' farms, right? So you can choose the chaotic side. You can find a target, a farm, you can attack, you can burn down stuff, you can steal their resources. Now, if you start doing that, maybe the lords are not going to be so happy, right? Because the lords, they're earning taxes from all of the farmers in their lands. And if the farmers are earning if the lords are earning less taxes from the farmers, they're going to be pretty unhappy. And what they can do then, the lords, is they can offer token rewards to knights. And knights are the friendly warrior type players who actually get paid a bounty from the lord whenever they protect farmers from raids. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that definitely seems to make sense on my side. Obviously a question that we always like to ask, because obviously, you touched on it earlier from the kind of blockchain infrastructure side. This does look like a high fidelity game with lots of different components. I'd love to hear a little bit about your kind of thesis on, what blockchain you're going with, what L2, and your kind of thoughts around the kind of tech stack surrounding BlockLords.
Yeah, so we're quite familiar with working with a lot of chains. We released projects on BSC, on Moonbeam, on ETH, on Matic, and we feel really strongly that the future of blockchain gaming is cross-chain. We think most users are not too bothered by which layer their NFT is on, and we want to make it possible for users to be able to really send and receive NFTs from multiple different chains. So we are definitely looking at good L2 solutions. Immutable X is the chain we're considering for the initial NFT mint, but we're also in talks with all major chains such as Solana and BSC, of course, as to how we want to approach the experience for the user. Mainly what we want to say is that we want users with assets across all chains to be able to play the game in a seamless way.
Awesome. That's fantastic to hear. Always great to hear multi-chain being touted. So going to be exciting to see that play out for sure. And good news for those who kind of like using different chains, of course, who cater to a lot of different audiences. Yeah, I suppose another question there as well is like, if you're kind of a YGG community member, as we're like a play to earn blockchain gaming guild, what are the kind of the best ways for the community to like start getting involved? Obviously, you've mentioned like the free to play heroes. I mean, obviously, YGG is obviously gonna have some assets as well. But would you say that like jumping in and kind of trying it out with the free to play heroes would be the best thing to do to start experimenting?
I do think so, and we are going to have a lot of custom guild functions. Each guild is going to be able to have their own building in any village that they want, and in those buildings, actually, we are building in the NFT rental feature directly. So
Nice.
any guild that has a lot of NFTs at their disposal that they want to rent out to other players will be available in the guild buildings, where you'll have to basically prove your membership in YGG to be able to enter that guild building.
Nice.
So that's definitely one main way that we're doing it. But for us, really, the game is built entirely around guilds. And we think it would be very easy for a guild leader to get set up as a lord. And because as a lord, you're earning taxes from your farmers, the more farmers you have on your land, the better. It's a win-win in essence, because the guild leader gets rewarded for having their entire group of players working on their land. And also the players get rewarded because the more the guild leader or the lord invests in the infrastructure of their region, the more resource output, the better earning opportunities, and also the more competitive this region will be. So it's actually a way for guild leaders also to grow their following by investing in the region that they're managing.
It's pretty cool. I mean, I have a question that's related to, I mean, since we're talking about it. So Shin from the community is asking, does overtaxing your farmers have consequences in the game?
Absolutely. Because
Nice.
if you overtax, at the end of the day, the farmers vote with their feet, right? They can always choose to move around and go somewhere else. So as a lord, really, people maybe now think, oh yeah, it's you just be a lord and earn income. But actually, like in medieval times, more money, more problems. You have to make sure that the castle's repaired, that no raiders are attacking your farmers. You have to make sure taxes are not too high so that people rebel. And in essence, as a lord, you're going to have a lot of responsibility to make sure that your farmers are happy, are earning enough to keep themselves satisfied, and that they're not just going to the next lord to farm there. And if too many farmers are leaving for the next lord, maybe you need to attack that lord. So this is also how we spur competition between the different lords for farmers, basically.
So that's pretty cool because, like, from how I'm hearing it is, like the game is very multifaceted, where you do have players who might want to focus on farming or on battling, but at the same time, let's say your quote unquote like your investors or your landowners or your lords, also actually have to play. You have
Yeah.
to play the game. So it's not just a matter of just like swooping in and buying all the floor lands or whatever or whatnot, and just leaving it there and then just selling it after. But to make the most out of it, like you have to actually engage, and there's going to be another level of dynamic within the NFT owners or the guild owners per se, and also the community. So I mean, yeah, it's I think you're right when you mentioned that it's not only an RTS game at this point. You're basically putting together like all the best ingredients off the previous RDS games that have been out there, and just mashing it up into just one super game. And I think I've mentioned earlier, David, that I've been talking with my friends, and been saying that it's actually odd that we haven't had any up and coming RTS games that are NFT games, and I think it's about time. And I mean, this is one of the most casual games that I actually enjoyed playing in the past. But let's say for me, or let's say for other newbies here in the YGG community, what are going to be the prerequisites for us to be able to participate in the game?
So it really comes down to what you want to do in the game, and we are focused on building a casual experience that's free to play for those who want to experience that. Now that's more your entry level type gamer who's like, okay, I downloaded the game, I get my little farmer, I get my farm, I check back in every week, every other day, and that's totally fine. And we want to, and that's at the end of the day, that's what we want BlockLords to be. It's a medieval experience that's strategically focused, but for many different types of players, right? So a farmer is going to play the game a very different way from what a raider is going to play it, and a knight is going to be playing a completely different way from a lord. And we really want to get into that, and that's the cool part about the YGG community, because you're leading the way when it comes to these play-to-earn games. And actually, what I expect is we're going to see a large part of the YGG community get involved different ways. Now, the first way to get involved will be as a farmer, but we are going to have a special NFT sale where users are going to be able to collect banners and basically be able to claim their lords and claim the title for lordships. This is going to be extremely competitive. but you'll also be able to claim, different resource packs, different in-game items, and different farmers as you take part in this banner sale. So I would say for the YGG community, definitely the initial NFT sale is going to be a very important part, a pretty important event if you want to get in from the ground up. But again, any point from the time the game is launched, YGG players will be able to get their farmer hero and will be able to join up a farm that's ideally ran by a YGG leader.
One interesting question that I suppose, like, if we see like a massive surplus of farmers enter into the game economy, could that be kind of woven into the story, as in, like, like we see like these horrible blights and surpluses of food, so that, like, obviously the prices of food get dropped down? So obviously, because I suppose that, like, supply and demand, like if we see like farmers producing goods, but those goods are inflating, it's actually something that can be kind of woven into the story to some degree, potentially for you guys, right?
Absolutely. And this is definitely a big part of the economy, is that different parts of the map are going to have different weather patterns, right? So you could have a drought in one part of the map and a flood in the other part of the map, right? And like you say, maybe a surplus one place. Well, first off, if there's a surplus, I can assure you the raiders are going to be there pretty quickly. And if the raiders are there, the lords are going to have more problems than know what to do with. And likewise, traders who are specialized level 2 players, in essence, they're like warriors but without armies, right? The traders, they're going to very likely go visit the surplus region, buy food cheaper, and go sell it in the places that need food. So the economy of the game is really at the heart, and we are putting a lot of thought on all the resources in the games, how they're generated, how they're spent, and also how they're converted into either NFTs or tokens.
That's an interesting thing. Like, I mean, it reminds me of actually something out of Civilization 2. I was a Civilization 2 player as well, and what one thing that could happen there is, like, you mentioned there, like, a farm gaining a lot of surplus, and then like these raiders being able to acquire like acquire their goods. Is that something that, like, are they going to be able to just see that, or do they have to do like a scouting party? Because I remember, like, I used to have to send scouts into other cities, and then you could see, okay, this is not very well protected, and they've got all these surpluses. I can invade that city and capture their goods. Is it a similar kind of mechanic for you guys, or how? Yeah.
You'll be able to see at a quick glance kind of the status of each region. So you will be able to see, okay, this region has a lot of wheat, or this region has a lot of steel right now. But then you'll still have to, as a player, kind of take yourself to that region if you're a trader type player, and that will take quite some time. So it'll be more like, oh, do I want to go all the way over there? Am I going to get raided on the way? Do I stay here and plant some wheat instead? So. And those choices are really what's at the heart of the game. And we think there are going to be a lot of great memes from these choices, and also a lot of opportunities for the smart players.
I have to say, I do like the idea of, like, historical events occurring, like, a drought in a specific area, and then, like, all the farmers get kind of really pissed because they lose all their crops, and then obviously they like resort to becoming like raiders and going raid something. It's going to be really amazing to see this play out.
And there will. This is actually a more of a DeFi focused feature for the later versions of the game, but we are going to have an option for farmers or lords to take out insurance on their crops in case they want to protect themselves.
Oh wow, nice.
Things like that, and you can actually get life insurance in the game as well. But that's more like a late stage feature if you don't want your NFT to die from a battlefield.
I mean, that's pretty cool, man. But talking about resources, so I'm not sure if we've touched on it. So which of these resources are going to be tokenized, or what could you share more about that?
Yeah, so the main in-game reward token is the mead token, as I mentioned, and mead is in essence refined crops from your farms.
Okay.
So as a farmer, you'll be able to choose a bunch of different crops to grow. Different crops will have different boosts for different things you want to do, whether it's feed your soldiers, feed your farmers, build new buildings, sell to traders. Each crop will have a different advantage. But in essence, you can take all of your crops, put them in the windmill, and refine them into grain.
Okay.
And grain is kind of like the second tier resource of the game that's actually perishable. But once you have grain, you'll basically be able to take it to the city and there take it to a
Okay.
distillery where you create mead. And mead is really the resource, the token that other players are going to need. And again, I think where the game is interesting for its economics is that only the farmers create the meat. So the core resource of the game, right? Because if you don't have meat, you can't have children. Is
Yeah.
actually in demand by the highest levels of players, which are lords, and the entry level players are the ones creating it. And this is what we want to do with our game. Is really something that YGG I think has done really well with. It's cementing this relationship between the leaders and the players, right? And
Yeah.
creating this win-win situation where the lords get what they want and the farmers get what they want.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because for most blockchain games, having an influx of farmed resources usually is the problem that causes inflation. But I mean, at this point, basically you have a perishable resource, and it just burns itself over time, and I guess that regulates the economy already on its own. Pretty interesting. I really love what you guys have here. But yeah, before I just jump back to community questions, or maybe Saratobi, you have more there. What are the dates that we should be looking out for BlockLords?
Yeah, so obviously for us, the goal is to have a great game, and sometimes delays do come, but we're a professional team and we're looking to be as follow our schedule as closely as possible. So our current timelines are early summer to have the initial banner sale, where users will be able to collect banners, trade them into heroes, trade them into peasants, trade them into even some in-game perks and bonuses. And this will be really the main activities over the summer. And then we're looking at early in the fall to release the early access version, where you will need an NFT because it's early access. We want to make sure everything works. So the fall is when the initial early access version will come, where users are mainly focused on farming and lordships. And then next year is when we're looking at Raider Knight battles and also the King battles, which are going to be pretty epic.
That's pretty cool. I mean, Mr. Saratobi here himself has a knack for early access NFTs, I may say. But if you, Saratobi, were to play the game, what how would you play it? What type of gamer would you be? Would you be would you be one of the kings of the kingdoms? Would you be a raider? Would you be a farmer or a lord? How would you play it?
I mean, yeah. Look, I mean, who doesn't want to be a king, though, right? I mean, like, yeah. I mean,
the question is, do you have time to be a king at this point with all the games that we are talking about?
But then, wait a second. But surely, this begs the question: like, surely kings do less work, though, right? Like, surely kings do the least amount of work. They own loads of castles and they have this whole infrastructure. I mean, that's a good question for David.
Yeah.
Like, is being a king in this game going to be a challenge, or is it like more like a financial thing, which is obviously like in reality, like being a king is obviously more about like having big coffers, having a big treasury, and maybe having a bit of a network. I've got a few people I could tap up to be like my lords and ladies, so maybe my treasury will allow me to be a king without too much sweat equity. I'll just get my serfs I have to be careful not to make jokes.
Yeah, that's a good one though. Yeah, that's a really good point, man.
Short answer is both. Short answer is both. In essence, in the game, any group of 3 lords or more can select a king for their region, for their province, you could say, because a region is smaller, right? Each region is controlled by a lord. Now, the crux here is a king cannot control a region. So you have to, in essence, have lords supporting you. Now, in terms of day-to-day management, kingdoms aren't that hard to manage, but there's a big responsibility, which is to research the tech of your nation, right? And the tech of your nation will have huge implications for what techs your lords can implement into their cities and what tools your farmers can use to refine their farms, right? So at the end of the day, the king, same here. Yes, the profits are great, or the rewards are great because you get all the taxes from the lords, in essence. But you need to make sure, the tech is good, or you're going to fall behind the neighboring kingdom. And same here, sometimes some regions, like you said, will be more bountiful. And if you want to declare war on that region, you can, but kingdom wars are going to be long, drawn out, and very expensive for both sides. So we kind of take inspiration from Eve on this, in that a kingdom war is going to be extremely difficult for both sides, and it cannot be taken lightly. So kingdoms is more high level, but also high risk, right? If you don't win a king war, you're going to have problems with your lords.
Nice. But I mean, so to be a king, do you have to be a lord first?
You'd have to either be a lord who convinces other lords to vote you in, or you'd have to buy an NFT from another king.
Okay.
That would be the way.
Oh,
It's quite.
I see. Interesting. Yeah. So, in theory, then, because you said if you're a lord of a region, when you become a king, you lose ownership of that region.
You'd have to give it up. Yeah, you'd have to give it up.
But is that actual ownership of an asset that you have to give up then?
No, because the NFT is your asset, which is your character.
Okay, so the region is not connected.
Exactly, it's a title. Okay. The title can transfer to someone else. So it's more, we don't have like limited land, because we felt it didn't quite fit the medieval age. You know, it was more about who has claim on the land, right? And the title is the claim on the land. And if you become elevated to the status of king, you no longer have the right to be a lord, because you're getting all the perks of being a king, and you kind of have to pass that on to someone else.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder how many of the farmers are going to try and assassinate their lords. Is that going to be possible?
It will be very, very difficult. I can say there is a way to challenge a lord, and the way that would happen is that the farmers are going to be tied to villages, and the farmers will be able to vote in their mayors, and the mayors have the right to upgrade villages. And if a mayor gets very, very ambitious, they can upgrade their village to a city. At that point, you have two cities in the same region, which is no bueno. And basically, you're going to have a civil war. And at that point, the farmers and knights get to choose who do they support in this civil war. This is how lord changes are handled.
I mean, it's pretty cool, because like from everything that we've been talking about tonight, like for me, we might be actually just solving the biggest, or not the biggest, but the ongoing problem of inflation with play to earn games. I mean, we're tying it to like real world use cases and what has happened and what is happening currently, and now it's just naturally solving like the problem of the fight for resources and the oversupply and everything. I'm not I'm pretty astonished in how this is just like unfolding like right before our eyes, when it's right there. Like, this might actually be one of the games that could actually be that could actually have a sustainable economy. I'm very I'm enthusiastic about the game. I definitely would try it out. But yeah, before we jump into some community questions, sorry, Toby, do you have any more there in your pockets?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk to David all day about this stuff, to be perfectly honest with you. So maybe it might be wise to shift away before I completely just take us down the rabbit hole. But yeah, no, obviously, like, it's a subject matter that I've always been a fan of history. I'm a big fan of Age of Empires and things like Game of Thrones and things like that. So it's going to be really exciting to see those kinds of themes evolve in BlockLords for sure. And I'm interested to know what the community thinks.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most common community questions most of the time is, I don't think we've touched on it. So, on what platforms will BlockLords be available?
So the game will be PC first. It will be a downloadable client. So it won't be a web browser game. It'll be an actual, you need to download the launcher. The launcher will look the same way a Total War or a Paradox launcher looks. You'll get our news. You'll get the latest with the BlockLords ecosystem. And you'll be able to start the game. Now, the PC requirements, we're working on keeping them as low as possible to make the game as accessible as possible. That said, the PC is only the first step, and we do plan to launch a mobile version of the game. Now, that said, the mobile version is going to be less focused on battles and kingdom gameplay and more focused on farming and lord management gameplay. That's going to be the core focus of the mobile version.
Will the mobile version be interoperable with the desktop version? Do we have the same account? Is that what it means?
Same account, same farm setup. Just the mobile version will look simpler in essence. The graphics will be optimized, and you won't be able to battle, but you'll be able to do your farm.
I think I see what you guys are going for here. So like when it's the real when it's the real battle, when it's when it's like raiding time or whatnot, I have to be on the desktop. But that doesn't mean that after that I could go out, I could do my own stuff, but I could still manage like my whole
Exactly.
account
You can claim
from
your
mobile.
resources. You can kind of manage your assets. You can build a new
Okay,
farm, yeah, or build a new building. You can do stuff like that.
it's pretty smart. Yeah, that's pretty awesome, man. So another follow up question, like what that the community loves to ask. So what are you seeing as challenges when it comes to well, exploiting the system, let's say with bots or auto clickers or scripts or whatnot? Like what are you perceived, or what are you forecasting to be abused when the game comes out, and how do you plan to prevent those?
Short answer is everything. I think bots and players are going to try
Yeah,
to use every system. That's part of the fun also as a game
yeah,
designer, is the way we're approaching the design of this game is really we're ready for everything, and the balancing will never stop. We always have to make sure that we're proactive, that we notice what the players are doing, that we make sure nothing gets abused, and that we take quick action when it happens. And so really that it comes down to game balance, and this is actually not just a problem in play to earn games. It's a problem in regular strategy games, which I've been working on for the last 10 years. And the approach to that is, steady patching, clear feedback with the community, clear dialogue with the community, and really make sure that all systems, whether it's farming or lordships or warriors, are enjoyable to play and have the right to reward output.
awesome. Yeah, so you guys heard it first. But yeah, for everyone at home, for everyone right now tuned in to the stream, yeah, make sure that you guys shoot your questions over at the AMA discussion channel here on Discord. But if you guys are on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, you can drop it in the comments, and yeah, we will be asking David those questions shortly. But yeah, I mean, I love the game. I love the concept. I mean, I'm thinking, within YGG, like this could actually, be a common thing where we have people, playing the game just 24/7, people going in and out. But when we do have events or like raids or like guild events, that's when everyone like hops on and just comes up with their own strategies, and maybe conquer other guilds as well. Aside from that, so what would you say, David, are the most unique features of the game that will be separating you guys from any other competitors or any other similar projects that are being developed or will be developed in the future?
I can't say there's a game of this scope being developed yet. I do think a lot of people will start doing it as they find out about us, because the concept, I think, as you said, is that it's time. It's time for a good
Yeah,
strategy game with this type of economics, and especially with asymmetrical incentives, where different types of users play different ways, contribute to the ecosystem different ways, and earn from the ecosystem different ways. So I would say for the most fun feature that you asked, for the guild specifically, I think the Kingdom Wars are going to be amazing, because I definitely foresee a future where different kingdoms are managed by different guilds, and where certain resources are going to be so attractive that the guilds are going to go to war. And so imagine a YGG going to war against the Merit Circle over the most lucrative
yeah.
region in the land. And this is where I see a lot of the fun coming from the guild interactions.
Yeah, that's pretty cool though. I think we touched on it a bit earlier, but the hard question that everyone wants to hear, is this gonna be pay to win, and why not?
I don't think so. I've worked on a lot of free-to-play games that maybe you could have classified as pay to win, and I've learned a lot from that experience. And for us, it's really paid to share in essence, because what it is the way we're designing the game is there isn't one winner. If a kingdom becomes really powerful, it's actually not just one winner, it's the entire kingdom that's winning, and one player is not going to be able to do it. And so this is why I love guilds so much, by the way. I want to work with every guild, and I mean, YGG invented the format, so that's why I'm so happy to be partnered with you. For me, it's really this idea that yes, there will be ways to improve your power, improve your potential, improve your earning by spending, but it's not the only way. And smart players will be able to do a lot of things for free, and then maybe use some asset allocation or asset expenditure to improve things. But again, when they're spending, they're actually not just paying a game designer to release some skins. They're actually paying a few knights to help them take over the neighboring region, right? And so for us, it's more, as I said, pay to share, and most importantly, play to own, right? And we want to sell the feeling of creating a world, a nation with your fellow players, and that's really what it's.
I mean, I have to. One thing I have to say is, though, I think in a game like this, where realistically, like, like adding in capital equates to some form of power. I mean, I don't think pay to win necessarily like has to be always bad. Because I mean, if we, and this is something that we've discussed, because at the end of the day, you want to incentivize people to, drop loads of money on like really expensive assets. We've seen this with like some other kind of large, really grand scope games. Like things like Star Atlas. I mean, like realistically, if you're going to buy, something like a multi-million-dollar spaceship or something like that, it's going to have some sort of impact. Now, I mean, maybe in kind of medieval warfare, it might not be as direct, but at the end of the day, if I'm a king of a nation and I'm extremely wealthy and I can like bribe the knights of the other kingdom to like turn against their lord and kill them, I mean, that is pay to win. But that's reality though, man. Like that's just the way the world works. And I think in a game like this, like the harsh reality, like it's gonna separate like, okay, who's truly like a loyal subject. I mean, like if you can use money to like win a war, that's just realism in my opinion. Like I mean, it's different if it was like an FPS game, right? In an FPS game where it's like so skill based, or many other games, like pay to win would be frustrating. And I mean, maybe even maybe certain modes of the RTS could be frustrating if they were kind of pay to win. But maybe at the grand strategy level, degrees of pay to win are kind of slightly more acceptable.
Yeah.
Slightly more. I'd be careful to phrase it that way. I would say we want people who spend to get value for what they're spending. Absolutely, 100%. But I do think there's a way to redefine that, where again, it comes down to working with others, right? And in terms of game balance, I don't think we want one kingdom, even if it's the richest kingdom in the world, to take over everything. And so it comes back to that, what I mentioned earlier, which is game balance, right? And by making larger kingdoms, too many farmers and too many knights harder and more expensive to manage, we're also able to balance it in such a way, because at the end of the day, we want competition and we want everybody feel like they have a fair shot. And the way we're designing it is so that the right group of people deploying their in-game and out-of-game resources the right way will always have a chance to at least have fun in the game, which at the end of the day is what we want.
Yeah, I mean, I totally love it. This having another layer on, on gamifying like the political side of BlockLords, just adds a whole new spin to it. I mean, we see this in YGG with our Mirror 4 community. So we have a very active sub community within YGG who's playing Mirror 4 day in and day out. We have over 200 members there. And the funny thing is, YGG isn't partnered with Mirror 4. And regardless, like the game is fun, and we even have our own our own system built in there. We have our elders. We have, I mean, this whole hierarchy happening within that game. But what we can see there is that we don't have resources like the other guilds that we're going up against, who can, dominate the whole server, or maybe in this case dominate like the whole land or whatnot. But what we are doing there is that we have alliances with these pay to win guilds. And it's funny because I mean, YGG could be the most pay to win guild of all, you know what I'm saying? But in that case, there are relationships that are being built, there are dynamics that are being spun up, just trying to go up against all these other stronger guilds, or these stronger these stronger players. And I think from what you guys have been talking about, then this is something that we can expect and we will be seeing. And this time around, we have the stakes a lot higher, because it's gamified, and the real world, I mean the real world economics is now going to be applied in this game that we are about to see. But yeah, Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. I couldn't say more. Um, yeah. I'm sorry, Toby. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, no, on my side, I'm just hyped to get involved. I mean, obviously, I suppose as we finish up, I suppose the big question is like, what are the best ways for the YGG community to keep up with what's happening with BlockLords? I'm assuming Twitter, Discord, anywhere else that we should be, or that the community should be following you guys.
I'd say blocklords.com is a great way to get started. We've got Discord, we've got Telegram. We actually, our Discord has a mini farming text-based game that's already launched. That's driven a lot of engagement, and players can start getting some wheat. You can even become a lord, and you can get some farmers working for you as a lord and start earning taxes. So our Discord is definitely the place to go. And our Twitter will have all the latest info, and there's a ton of news, there's a ton of video content, and there's a ton of gameplay content that'll just keep coming as we get closer to a launch.
Sounds
Awesome.
really epic. Sounds
Yeah.
epic. I mean,
Totally agree, dude. I'm really excited about the game. I definitely will be playing it personally. But like one last thing that I love asking our guests on our AMAs is, how can the viewers be part of the BlockLords team? Are you guys hiring? Is there any talent that you're looking for? Within the core team maybe, or within your community team. So yeah, please let us know.
Definitely. We're hiring, again, as I think as mentioned, 30 plus roles in the coming months. Anything from artists, graphic designers, marketing people, admin people, anything really that who loves the game, who wants to work with us, and who wants to build really the future of Web3 gaming. I'd say our ambassador program is not launched yet, but is in development. So also, if you don't feel ready for a full-on gaming career quite yet, but you want to contribute to the community, the ambassador program will be the way to do that.
And how do we get in touch with you guys for full-time opportunities?
So we have info@metakingstudios.com is our admin and HR email. That's the best way to go. And I would say we're pretty open on Twitter and Discord as well. Those are really the spaces to get in touch with us.
Right, awesome. So you guys heard it first. The guy and main man himself, David from BlockLords. We are gonna be expecting another game to hit the metaverse pretty soon. But before we go again, we would like to thank everyone who tuned in tonight. Shout out to our community marshals. Shout out to AC, Ajax, Reno, Snowable, Steffi, and Sil, for being wonderful hosts on Discord, and for everyone else who has been active in asking questions. You guys, you know the drill. Jump in the Discord of BlockLords. Make sure to be active, and just get started early with the game. And again, my name is John Sedano, community marketing manager, and now also the head of media for YGG, and my partner, the one and only head of partnerships. There you go. Sorry, Toby. But again, thank you guys. It's been a wonderful night, and we hope to see you soon. But yeah, for now, see you guys in the metaverse. Peace.
Thanks,
thank you so much, guys. Cheers.
Good night, everybody.